All right, hey, we are here in Big Bend Ranch State Park, the sister park to Big Bend National Park. It is phenomenal here, 74 degrees and sunny. On this episode, I get a ton of questions about which camera gear I use, what do I use for taking for video for the drones, and how do I get those interesting angles and shots. Let's dive in. All right, so camera gear. Camera gear is always a hot topic, right? It seems like every few months a new piece of gear comes out and you gotta have it. It's very tempting. My actual camera gear journey started back in 2017, or late 2017, early 2018, with the iPhone 10. Great camera came out, you could use the wide angle, etc. And I dove headfirst into this company called Moment. They make a case where you can screw in different lenses on them. So you had a wide angle lens, you had an anamorphic lens, you had a macro lens, which is pretty cool. And I loved it. I use those a lot. And then I really started diving into seeing people on Instagram and YouTube of getting a DSLR camera, a camera that you can really manipulate the settings, etc. And after a ton of research, and I knew that I like to travel and be on the move, I wanted to go with a mirrorless camera for weight savings, and felt like that was like the next generation of cameras, you know. So dove headfirst into the mirrorless camera game. Got my first drone around 2018 when I was living in Oregon, and the rest is history. So let me walk you through my kit. This was my first camera here, the Sony A7 III. This is still a phenomenal camera. I got this in 2018. It's a couple years old at the time, and this has served me so well. Incredible low light, really small, lightweight, and Sony and third parties have been making a ton of lenses for the E-mount system, which has worked really well. And this camera that I recently got was the A7R4, which is an absurd camera in terms of megapixels, sensor. It's basically like an upgraded A7 III. I like it. After a couple months of use, I probably wouldn't have got it again. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a phenomenal camera. However, there's no need for megapixels that high. There's no need. I found that I like to take Astro, and if I take Astro with this, the processing time is so long, even with an incredibly fast SD card, that doing time lapses, doing anything like that, just takes so long, eats up so much memory. Each photo ends up being over 100 megabits. I think it's like 128, which is wild. Fills up memory cards really fast. But what I really like about it is I can take a photo and I can zoom in and crop incredibly far. It is a phenomenal camera in terms of what it outputs, but looking at some other things that have come in the market, like the A7 or the A1 that's coming out soon, that's definitely high on my list, because big drawback here, no 4K. No 4K above, I think it's 30. And I like to shoot, at least at 60 with the stabilizer, so I can slow it down, etc. You can't do that here. You can only shoot, I think it's 30 frames per second on 4K. And so what I've really found is that the bodies are important, certainly, very important, but even more important is the lenses. And I didn't know that for a long time. And so, that this is a lesson of research and trial and error, and using companies on the internet where you can try the lenses, you can like rent them and then send them back, which is great. And so I'm going to show you my 4 lenses that I brought with me here. The first being what I use for all of my astrophotography, all of my nighttime shoots, is this incredibly fast Rokinon f1.4 24mm fixed lens. It's manual only. This thing is, manual focus only. This thing is phenomenal at low light. Opening up the aperture to 1.4 lets in an incredible amount of light, and I've been so happy with this, learning how to manual focus, learning how to set my aperture, and learning how to set my shutter speed and ISO, just to get phenomenal Milky Way shots, which I've been very happy with. So this is my go-to. I use this, I bring this everywhere we go camping. I use it all the time. Second here is my Sony f.4 16 to 35 millimeter. This is a wide angle lens, a small, compact, not as fast as I would like it at f.4. I prefer an f.28, but it is great for what it does, and it's great. I use it a lot for my landscape stuff. It allows me to get a super wide angle, and it's just a good all-around wide angle lens. No knocks on it. My go-to lens, which is on my camera most of the time, is this Sigma Art f.2.8 24 to 70 millimeter lens. This thing is phenomenal. The starburst that it gets on light is amazing, and this is both a automatic and manual focus. I've been using this for more so for nighttime shots, just because of the quality of those starbursts. Like, you get a moon shot or a star, you can zoom in, especially using the A7R4, and the starbursts are incredible. So I put this on for first shots most of the time, and then I'll take it off and if I need to change up the lenses. But this is my go-to for sure. And my second go-to here is this telescope lens, this f.4 70 to 200 millimeter. This thing is great. Really enjoy it. It's great bokeh. I could have gone the f.2.8, and in hindsight, maybe I should have, but it is good for what it is. It's sometimes hard to focus, autofocus in low light. And so the G Master 2.8 is probably next on my list to upgrade whenever that time comes. But right now, no problems, no issues. But that will definitely be my second most used lens, and I will upgrade to the f.2.8 here at some point. What I've learned is so incredibly important, and learned it through definitely trial and error and learning from people on YouTube, is getting an ND filter. So these are two variable density filters from Hoya, and this one fits the Sigma, and this one fits the Sony, the telescope lens, and the Sony Zeiss. And it allows you to change it's basically like sunglasses for a lens, and so you can keep the aperture wide open, because if you want to get a shallow depth of field, or whatever the case may be, but it's too sunny, you can crank up this darker shade of the sunglasses, so to speak, and it lets you still take that photo without overexposing the highlights. It uses a ton. I also use this when you want to get a time lapse of water, or like a waterfall, or any sort of moving water like the ocean or the waves. You got to set the shutter for like 5-6 seconds. Well, if you're doing that in any sort of light, it's gonna blow out the picture. So if you can pump this down for many stops. I don't even remember how many stops it goes down, but it can be basically pitch black, and you can put it on for 5-10 seconds, and you look at the photo like, holy crap, the water's smooth, looks great, and the light is perfect. So highly recommend these. It allows you to be so versatile in the conditions that you shoot. You don't have to wait for the perfect light conditions. You can kind of manipulate your surroundings to get that shot. So those are the final two pieces I want to talk about on the kit. And next I'm going to show you where I keep these lenses. So all this stuff fits in this awesome little bag by Newer. It's company Newer. It's a little travel, it's like an insert, but I use it to keep in the floorboards of the Jeep. Customize where I go. The two cameras go here. I keep my lenses in here, keep the telescope lens in here, keep the Sigma here, but I have all these other accessories like a remote timer. This thing is clutch in the desert, because one of the big knocks on the mirrorless camera is as soon as you want to take off the lens cap, or take off the lens to put a new lens on, the sensor's wide open, so you get a lot of dust in there. So I usually turn it upside down, give it a few blasts, get all the dust out, because that can really jack up your picture. All right, so we move to the drones now, and the drones have been a labor of love, I would say, and started off back in 2017 just messing around, and have really tried to perfect the craft of more precision shooting and more creative shots, right? It's so easy the temptation is just to fly it up as high as you can go, and nothing wrong with that. You get great views, get great vantage point like you wouldn't get normally, right? Unless you had a helicopter. It's just so much fun to play around the drone. You feel like a kid messing around, and which is exactly what I am sometimes, so it works out well. I've had this Mavic 2 Pro now as my first drone. Pretty unnecessary for a first drone for sure, but I just went for it because I didn't really know much else, and I was like, oh, seems to be a great review, so let's get it. Crashed it on the first day and had to send it in. Luckily I got the repair thing that DJI does, and they repaired it back to me, but it was pretty embarrassing. I tried to fly it inside like an idiot and just crashed it, blew out 2 of the motors. So I love this thing. It is my workhorse. I use it all the time. Phenomenal video, phenomenal photos. I have some ND filters for it as well. Really have had 0 issues with this. No mechanical issues after that crash. I've crashed it a dozen times since then. It gets right back up and goes. And you got the remote for it here. You know, pretty standard DJI remote. It definitely improved on some things, which I'll get to in a minute, but you know, I've had no problems with this. The battery still keeps a pretty good charge. Here I have, you know, a filter. This is the anamorphic filter by Moment. You attach it on to the sensor and it creates that, you know, sort of cinema quality. You get those lines of light through your shot, and it's pretty phenomenal. I haven't used it too much, to be honest. It doesn't really work for me in terms of the nature and the drone stuff I shoot, but definitely want to get more into that. One of my favorite things here is these traveling cases, and I found these on Amazon. So this allows you to just stick this right in here, zip it up, good to go. And what I love about the case for the remote is that normally you have to take off the joysticks, put them in here, take off the, you know, the wires. This goes right in here and it has 2 holes. Done. Zip it up and you're good to go. All right, and then the newest addition here is the Mavic Mini 2. This thing is phenomenal. I had the Mavic Mini for a while, and what's great about this one, you know, upgraded to 4K, and it's still under the, I think it's 250 grams is the limit, so this is 249 grams, right under the limit where you don't have to register the drone. But this thing is wonderful for getting into tight spaces, right? Like you see, I fly through the tent a lot, I fly through rock formations or near trees, and it just allows you to get places that the Mavic 2 really just wouldn't fit, or I don't feel as bad crashing this one because it was only like $500. Got the, you know, the DJI kit where if you break it, you can send it in, they give you a new one. I'm really impressed with this drone. You can change some of the photo settings now with the aperture, which you couldn't do on the previous one, so you do have a little more flexibility there. But the biggest change is this remote. Like, so this is the remote now. I was at first, I was like, oh, it doesn't have a screen, but everything about it, let me open this up. One integrated wire into the remote, so you don't have to take your wire off or worry about it. To me, that's the biggest game changer. I don't know why the other ones don't have it. I hope all the remotes have this at some point, but it allows you to not have to worry about, well, where's my iPhone cable, and I can just keep it there. And I like having the screen, the phone above it instead of below. And the remote's chunky, and at first I was like, oh, it's too big, but this is perfect. Fits my hand great. Just really like the simplicity of it. The battery lasts forever. So just very, very happy with this. Very happy with the iOS app for this, and really the Mavic 2. I used the Note 8 for a while, so the Android app, it just wasn't as good in my opinion. Just really enjoyed the screen, the layout, and been very happy with this. Also included in this is this multiple battery charger for the Fly More kit, and allows you plug this in and it charges 3 batteries at once, which is great. And last piece for this is I got some ND filters for the Mavic Mini 2 as well. I don't use them as often, but when I do, it's great to have, you know, for sunset, pop like an ND64 or ND32 on there, and it just allows you to have a little more control, like I said, with same concept as the camera ND filters for the drone as well. And for the majority of my videos and stuff that I use for inside the car or recording this video, I use the GoPro Hero 9. I love it because it has a screen on the front, so you can see what you're doing, which is often hard if you're filming yourself and then you realize you weren't even in the shot, which is frustrating. I haven't had it for very long, so still diving into the functionality of it, but the time lapse is great. They have a bunch of new features for that, with the hyperlapse, etc. And they have a lot more control over how you want to take your photos, and how you want to take your video. The raw photos are pretty good. I've edited a few of them and been pretty happy with it. So I use this a lot. Got this awesome tripod here you can set up for hyperlapses. And around it, I got the media mod, which I've had mixed reviews on the media mod. It's nice because it has this integrated mic here with the windshield. I got this light for it here, so you can, any sort of low light situations where we're in the car or anywhere you just need an extra light. And then it has a spot, I think it's called a shoe. I think that's what it's called up there. And I have the wireless mic receiver I can put in here and attach the lavalier mic to me. And it also has these dedicated things right here. So you get the headphone jack, and you have the USB-C charging cable over here, so you can charge it without having to take off the media pod or the media mod. Downside to this is if you want to change the SD card or change the battery, you have to undo the whole clip here from the mount, slide it off, and change it. And it also, when you have it on the media mod, it's no longer waterproof, so you gotta be careful. Not shown here, but I have the CPL filter on here, which kind of helps with, and it's from a company called Skyreet. Helps with any sort of light, just smooths out water, smooths out skin tone and stuff like that. And then I have some ND filters for it as well in my GoPro bag inside the Jeep. And up here, I have the GoPro Max, which is, I think the upgraded version of the Fusion, which was with their first 360-degree camera. I use this a lot for the vlogging portion of the dashboard cam. So it's nice because it has a front-facing lens, which I can get outside shots, and it has a rear-facing lens, so we can speak to it and talk in here. I've used it a couple times on hikes, which has been great because you can do that 360 view above you. I used it on the Kalalau Trail in Hawaii, Kauai, which was awesome. We had a cool vantage point of going over Crawler's Ledge. It's an all-purpose camera. I definitely don't use it for its max functionality, so it's definitely being underutilized up here on the dashboard cam, but we take it out sometimes and use it, and probably should use more of that for sure. And the great part about all of this is that the gear I use the most is the iPhone. So this iPhone, I think this is the 11 Pro, phenomenal phone. I was thinking about upgrading to the 12, just haven't yet, and probably won't. I don't know. That didn't strike me as much better of a camera to justify the expense, and that's what I use my phone most for: camera and probably texting. I use this for everything. It's got a great camera, shoots in RAW, and I've really enjoyed it. And it's kind of ironic, you have all this stuff, and you end up pulling out your phone and using your camera the most. So it's really, phones have really leveled the playing field for photographers, that you don't have to have the best gear. I have a video on YouTube where I shot the whole thing on the iPhone and edited it, and to me it felt like I was using one of my Sonys or the GoPro or something a little more fine-tuned for videography. And no, that was the iPhone. And so don't think you need to have the best gear. Your phone often works great. It all depends on the settings you use and how creative you can get with your photos. And so I use an app called Moment, which same company that makes some of the gear that I have. It allows you to capture your photos in RAW, which captures so much more information. It's a much bigger file. It's going to look flat when you take the photo, but once you get into Lightroom or whatever editing software you have, you can really dial up the contrast. The dynamic range is better. It just gets a ton more information per pixel, which allows you then to really get creative and manipulate the light and all the other all the things you can do in Lightroom. So I highly recommend that. Getting off of JPEG, which with iPhone shoots naturally, you can use this app called Moment or any other app that does that, and you can start shooting your photos in RAW and really getting the most out of your pictures. Kelsey's learned that recently, yeah?
Learned what? Shooting your photos in RAW on the Moment app? Yes.
How's that worked out for you?
It's good.
It's good. That's a glowing review.
You have a lot more flexibility with your editing process.
She's learning. She's learning. I was just mentioning that.
I learned from the best.
So that is my kit. That is what we use here, at least while we're traveling. I have a few other manual lenses that I use for astro. Fisheye lens, which I really enjoy. It gets a really wide angle view. I don't really have any plans to get any additional lenses except maybe upgrade of the current focal length that I have to get better or faster aperture. But other than that, I've been really happy with this kit. Now it's just time to continue to learn, get creative, and really expand my repertoire of stuff I do. So hope that helps. I'll put all these links to stuff that I have in the description. So if you're curious, you can click on that, or you can just shoot me a note, hit me up on Instagram, RoofTopAdam, and I can answer any questions that you have. But until next time, we are going to enjoy a phenomenal sunset yonder, get a campfire going. Kelsey's making steaks tonight, and should be a good night. I'll see you later.